Let's address rape. Now, rape is the materialization of one's identity to the function of satisfying somebody who basically pirates that body, takes that body, and accepts that they are the ruler of that body because they can take it with physical force. Now, when it comes down to rape itself, it doesn't matter if it's a man, woman, uh, child is especially terrible, but it doesn't, or anybody in between. It only matters that that person who is doing the rape is basically saying that, okay, I'm going to use your body for my own materialistic purposes, my own materialistic so-called needs, but really it's materialistic wants. Because if somebody chooses to objectify you in the way that rape does, then it has nothing to do with something that they need, but something that they're willing to do to somebody else in order to destroy their own desire for a small amount of time, not even an extended amount of time. Thus, a rapist will usually, well, almost always rape again because they want to satisfy that desire that they have, regardless of a human being, a human soul in the body that they're using for their crime, for their own self-pleasure, self-satisfaction. Um, let's address rape. Let's address it as, a societal form. Now, in societies throughout human history, women have been kind of shut up when it comes to rape, have been kind of pushed down, have been allowed to exist, but only if they be quiet about how they were raped or by who they were raped. This has been a very male-centric society. In human history, dating back to the very beginning of recorded history, we see a lot of signs of the male ruling of society. We can go back to the Greek times, the times of Homer, when he wrote the Iliad, and of course the Odyssey. If we combine them into one, we see that women were property. Women were treated as objects. They weren't treated as citizens who had their own say in who they had sex with or who they married. They were treated as property to be traded, to be taken, to be ruled over. And we see this a lot in common society, but it's very subtle, and it's very, in capitalism, we see women objectified, and, it's very unlikely that women in any given job will be paid as much as men, even if they're doing the same amount of work, even if they have the same experience, even if they have the same education. It's very unlikely that they'll be paid the exact same amount as the men who are working in the same place. And we're still overcoming these hurdles as a society, as a human race, really. But there is something that is really a hurdle that we shouldn't be still trying to overcome. It should be something that we're very much past. And it's the idea of rape being voluntary, or how voluntary it is, or how much it is the fault of the woman who is raped, or even the man who is raped. But mostly the women who are raped. When we look at court cases in the United States, we see that a lot of the time the case is made that, she was already in my house, she was already in my bedroom. If she says to stop, we're already doing it. Why should I have to stop? We're already there. Or, okay, I assumed that she wanted to have sex because she was with me in this place, or she said this or that, and then when she said stop, I just assumed that, I should be able to finish. And I hear this time and time again in the court cases that I read, or the the documentaries that I watch. The idea that just because, okay, you've gotten to that point, that means she has to do everything that you want. Just because she's in your bed and she wanted to have sex, she doesn't have the right anymore to say to stop. That is something that is still prevalent within even the society that I live in Texas, in the United States. We still see that many men feel entitled to a woman's body because they've gotten to a certain point with her, because they have a certain relationship to her. Even husbands, even men who are married to these women, a lot of the times when rape occurs, it's the man assuming that, okay, well, you're my wife, I get to do whatever I want to you. I get to be on top of you for as long as I want. I get to decide when this ends. And that's the consequence of marriage. And usually when a wife files charges, against a husband because of this, because that is rape, that is most definitely rape. The judge will say, yeah, you didn't stop or start having sex with her because she wanted you to, or you didn't stop when she wanted you to. You decided to continue on despite her saying no. Yeah, you're a rapist. You get charged with rape. But there are some judges in the United States still, and especially in many parts of the world where one can consider them third world countries, or countries that are not as developed, or hell, some people say civilized, but that's a very complicated term. Especially in those countries, if a woman is married to a man, she has no right to say when they have sex, and that is a terrible shame. It is a terrible travesty against the human soul that this still exists in society, even if it's mostly in other parts of the world. But this still exists in the United States. Many judges in many states will still say, "Okay, well, y'all were married. Was it really you saying no, or was it kind of iffy?" Or they'll try to dance around the fact that the woman didn't want to have sex, and that is ridiculous and repugnant, especially considering that we're I guess you could say a first world country. There's still some judges in the United States who will try to make that argument, or lawyers especially, but they're trying to represent their client. But at any rate, rape is rape. When you try to objectify somebody, when you try to use them to satisfy your own desires, and you try to use their body in the form of them being an object rather than a person, rather than somebody that you would rather converse with and make love with. You're trying to use them to satisfy yourself. That is rape. And there are many forms that this can take, but when you try to use somebody, and it's very physical, that is rape. It doesn't always have to be the traditional sexual sense, but you try to use somebody else's body without their permission, that is rape. And there is no getting around it, and this is really the antithesis of spirituality. Trying to free oneself and one's, whether it be one's family, whether it be one's society, whether it be one's group, trying to free ourselves from this materialistic reality. And then we have trying to subjugate people to the materialistic reality so that we have an advantage over them in this materialistic reality. So we have these two sides, spirituality and rape. And really, on the rape side, you might think, rape, is that really the one thing that's counter to spirituality? And ultimately, yes, when you're trying to make somebody's body a material object that you use, when you're trying to even make yourself a material object that's trying to consume, or when you're trying to value material in and of itself, regardless of the impact it has on those around you, rape is basically the antithesis of spirituality. And these materialistic concerns, a lot of them can be considered as rape. But I'm talking mainly about the intrusion upon somebody else's body that we're trying to use, or that person who rapes is trying to use for their own benefit. And this is always a terrible thing, and it shouldn't be considered any less terrible because somebody's married, or because somebody lives in a society where, it's always the woman's fault. Rape is always terrible, no matter how you paint it. So, hey, I'm not going to say thank you for watching, but I hope this has been informative. I hope that what I've been talking about has been, interesting, and has given you a better idea about what rape really is. It's very materialistic in and of itself, and it's the opposite of what we want. The spiritual need to become infinite, to join with infinity. It is confining somebody else to a materialistic body and trying to use that body. So, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot it down in the comment section below. And I hope to see all of you in my future videos. And really consider how you view yourself materialistically, and consider how you view other people materialistically. And think that, do I want to use other people? Question yourself. Thank you for watching.